Hello and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. This week we have everybody on the podcast. Kat's back from her trip.
I am.
And we are actually talking about the Wynonna Earp PilotPod. So it was recently announced that Wynonna Earp, which ended after 4 seasons, I think back in 2021, they're getting a movie. They're filming it right now based on the Wynonna Earp cast that I follow on social media, and it's going to be on Tubi. Tubi?
I think it's Tubi.
Tubi makes more sense.
Tubi.
you know the channel that's all Shakespeare.
Yes, that's what I know about it.
Subscribe.
It's actually all public domain.
Subscribe to Tubi for all your Shakespeare. Could you imagine if people thought we were serious and they were like, "There's not enough Shakespeare on this"?
I'm so curious what Tubi even has. Is it for streaming? It looks like it's all.
It's like a lot of movies. I watched
Bad Girl Club. Oh, that's amazing.
The first time I watched It Follows. I actually watched it on Tubi, and I will say the commercial breaks did take me out of the horror aspect of it a little bit. I think because Tubi is like a completely free platform, so you got to deal with commercials like you're watching.
Farmer Wants a Wife, new episodes.
Oh my God, Farmer Wants a Wife is on there. Yeah. Sign me up.
Oh, don't worry. There's also the Tubi original My Husband's Baby.
Fascinating.
Which I'm gonna assume is not her baby.
What if it was your own baby?
The Stepdaughter.
What if it was your own baby and you just didn't like it so much that you're like, this is my husband's baby?
It's like I take no ownership.
I don't want to be involved.
Oh my God, these are like D movies. These are like straight up.
I kind of like that.
It's like a lot of like not super popular movies or movies that are really old now.
Like Sharknado version movies.
Why would Wynonna Earp, like what?
Well,
because
listen,
it's the place that picked it up.
Listen, Wynonna Earp had, I said earlier, Wynonna Earp, it usually has like $5 in a dream. So Tubi offered it money and they were like, and
like, do you have $5 in a dream?
I bet the money is the budget is probably less than it was on Sci-Fi somehow, and that is puzzling.
Sci-Fi has Chucky. What else do they have now?
So Sci-Fi has nothing. They should have kept Wynonna Earp around. At least the fans were like,
right. Is Sci-Fi still around? The last thing I ever remember.
They have Chucky.
I
wasn't joking when I said they have Chucky.
They do. I hear it's good.
Phil, it's like Phil's favorite show.
Yeah, Phil loves it.
Yeah.
So we're doing that's the background of why we decided to suddenly do a pilot pod on Wynonna Earp is that there's new Wynonna coming soon.
We were gonna do it anyways, I think.
We're like, eventually it's gay. Do it anyway.
We should probably do it.
The people have been asking for it. So what's interesting is that Kat and I have seen this pilot and I have seen some of Wynonna Earp. Amy,
I want to say most of it, but we also have not finished it. I think
neither of us have finished it.
Yeah, the last season I want to say because I think there was a big gap.
There was a big gap. I was actually trying to remind myself why I didn't finish the last season, and it was that there was like a big gap halfway through the season where it was like okay, I want to say like a year or 6 months or something, but like halfway through that really, it wasn't my momentum.
Yeah, it wasn't like a season. It was literally a half a season. I remember
they released like 8 episodes and then they released like 4 more like 7 months later or something crazy. And I didn't
watch those.
I just forgot when the last few dropped to actually watch them. So my plan is now that they're making a movie to like start from the beginning and push through the whole thing. So this is actually my first step on that. I don't know how long it's going to take me because I'm lazy, but that's my plan. So Amy, let's start with you. We usually start these with like overall thoughts on the pilot, and then we'll get into how piloty it is, and then we'll talk about the characters and some of the story beats. And then at the end, we'll get into, I just answered it for myself. Would you watch more of it? We already have.
So it's a little harder to answer that question, but maybe, well, you know what's something interesting about this show is that when it aired, you kind of also maybe found out it was going to be gay, but that's not in this first episode. So I think that's what pushed me to watch more, was when I found out, oh, Wayhaught is happening. That's kind of a fun couple. So I don't think I watched the pilot thinking, ooh, Wynonna Earp's a really cool show. I think I heard about the gay and then went back and be like, oh, this is a cool show.
I think I also watched it when there were like 2 or 3 episodes had aired, and I like caught up on it because I was seeing like Twitter blow up about it and people really enjoying it. So I think even I, like, when I watched the pilot, was like, oh, people really like this show. So like, yeah, like let's keep going to see what that's all about. So, okay, first impressions of the pilot. Let's start with the person who actually would have like fresher first impressions. Amy, what do you think?
So this is interesting because I am, like you guys are saying, I was expecting a certain show. I was expecting, I recognize that it's pilot, but I knew enough of like the Earper world and the Earper fans to understand like what I was waiting for. I didn't dislike the pilot, but if I did not know where the show was going to go or how popular it was going to become, or that it was going to start to kind of get into some of the more interesting subjects that I'm interested in, I don't know if I would keep watching it. It's a little rough of a pilot. It's kind of
visually, we were talking about, me and Morgan were talking about that in general. It's like, oh yeah, those effects are not great.
Visually, the effects take you out of it. And
the effects were so, especially the effect in the early part of the pilot where she is fighting the like revenant in the woods. It was like film student level effects. Like they truly gave them like $20 and a stick of gum for those.
Well, even the fighting too, like the actual like stunts were not good.
The one where she jumps up and then spins around and like does like the roundhouse kick. I was like, how could it be worse? So I know generally characters who are not in the pilot who are supposed to show up. Like I'm like, the guy with the beard is missing. Like who is this sheriff dude? So I don't know. There's things that I expected to see that are not popping up. Doesn't mean.
Where's the guy with the beard? I'm so curious.
Isn't there a guy who, spoiler alert, she ends up with eventually?
That's the guy with the mustache, and he shows up. He shows up.
He also, full disclosure, spoiler alert, is he Wyatt?
No, he's so spoiler alert again, but you should have watched it by now. Not you, Amy, like you, the person listening. No, he's Doc Holliday, and I believe that comes out within like the next episode or two. So
no, it's in this season.
Yeah,
no, so they don't even make it a big deal.
Yeah.
So is he like he's a revenant of some sort? Like he was at some point dead?
No, he's just from he's from like I think he's like from the past, and he like was around when the grandfather.
Yeah, I can't remember the specifics of. I think
because only this season they don't care about it after season 1. I feel like he's here.
Yeah, he gets like he's like cursed to have like eternal life or something like that. Like he's immortal.
Oh, okay.
And that's how they kind of explain him being in it. And I believe, if I remember right from the first season, it's been a while since I watched the first season, he was in the well. So that's like the hand that's coming up out of the well after she gets the gun back. That was him like crawling up out of the well. So he's like, he gets, I think, eternal life, and then he gets thrown into a well. And I guess can't figure out a way out of a well. I mean, I don't know how deep this well is, but he could not figure out a way up for 100 years, which feels like a lack of creative thinking. But
yeah, he didn't want to think about it. But I actually also forgot how bad she was at the gun. I was like, oh man, that's so interesting. I forgot about that. And that's interesting to mention. Amy is like, oh, I didn't even know if the love interest is in here. It's like I thought that because I know like where it goes. It's like it's such an Amy pair. So I was like, oh, it's so weird that you weren't into it, but I guess they didn't really show much of this episode to be into it.
No, I didn't realize that was him. And so because I knew she ended up with someone else, I was automatically disinclined to know this chemistry. And
I don't care about that
happens
guy.
with me with book series or anything. If I'm spoiled and I know that Aang ends up with Katara, I have a hard time being like, oh yeah, let me ship Katara and Zuko. Now that was different when it came out because I totally shipped Katara and Zuko.
But then you found out what happened.
But when you know it's going to happen, naturally, I'm more inclined to be like, nah, you're not the one she's going to end up with. So I'm going to like ignore the chemistry, or I'm going to ignore any relationship. But now that I understand that, I can go back and watch it with a different eye.
But
It's one of those times when spoilers make it difficult for you.
What's interesting about this pilot too is that they do already plan to love triangle, because you're like, is she gonna end up with dolls? Like the way he is so close to her face,
so close.
yeah. In this episode,
Dolls
That's
is
his
the agent.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You watched Fringe, didn't you, Morgan?
Of course.
This struck me very much as like we're the FBI's or the U.S. Marshals version of the Fringe crew.
And I mean,
our goal is literally to hunt demons.
Yeah, it's such a trope, because that goes all the way back to the X-Files, where they have like Mulder and Scully in the basement somewhere in the FBI. So it's a time-tested trope. But yeah, you can see the love triangle they're already setting up in the pilot.
But they don't do in the show very much. Like they are just friends.
They kind of do. They do end up going. Spoiler alert again. They do end up going in a romantic way with the two of them. I don't even remember that. But it's ironically like right before some stuff happens. So that's why like the Wynonna and Doc thing has always been like a bigger deal. I think that happened. I think they played around with that in like the second season and then dropped it pretty fast. So
I don't even remember that.
They did kind of tease a love triangle that they played with for a while, and then they kind of just like gave up on it and went mostly towards like Wynonna and Doc.
Very hard. And you know what's interesting about this pilot is that it is very piloty. It is like a very CW sci-fi show where you introduce your players. They're interesting, and honestly the actors sell this for me. And honestly, I did not know how much Waverly plays such a big part to make this show good, because the main actress, I like her, but I think she grows into the role. The pilot, she wasn't great in, from what I saw.
Well,
and again,
'cause...
don't crucify, but Waverly I actually think was really good in this pilot. It's just a lot of fun.
I think the thing that works the best about Wynonna Earp, because sometimes the mythology does like get a little bit like, wait, what happened? And like, I'm trying to like jot it down and connect things with string because I'm like not quite following. But I think the characters work really well. And I think, especially in this pilot, immediately I like Wynonna, and I love Melanie Scarfano in the role. I think she's so like, she's just got so much charisma. And
do you like her in this episode?
I actually really did like her in this episode. I thought she worked really well to like kind of ground the episode. Her and Waverly, to me, is what makes the show a really good. And as the show continues, it gets more and more fun. But the characters, to me, were always the thing that the show did best. And I think even in the pilot, you can kind of see that like Wynonna has a very specific voice, a very specific sense of humor, a very specific kind of like way of talking. And so does Waverly. And those characters feel very real, even from the beginning.
But there's a scene in here that kind of got me confused where Waverly and Wynonna are fighting. They like are talking about whatever. I don't remember what it was. It was like the middle of the episode. And there's a point where I like in the script where I was like, this kind of feels like a joke. Like Wynonna is joking about something. And then she just goes hard. Like she's like, hey, almost like yelling at Waverly. And I was just like, oh man, that's such a weird choice to pick for this scene. And it's something I haven't thought about because I haven't rewatched it in a while. But I don't know. There's like some choices in that regard where I was like, oh, that was a weird direction to go.
I think they were trying really hard, possibly unnecessarily so, to make it clear that Wynonna is the black sheep.
Yeah.
Just so you know, the town doesn't like her. And I don't know if you noted, but about 15 people had to tell her, we don't want you here.
Yeah, like,
nobody
get out
likes
of
you.
Get out
and
of
they
town,
don't
Wynonna.
give you a good reason why. So
she's a bad. She went to juvie.
Bad egg.
I feel like one of the issues with the pilot is that they're like, it's piloty, but also kind of not piloty enough. Like you mentioned, everybody in town is telling her like, oh, you're a bad egg. You've done all this stuff. Like we get hints that she's gotten in trouble with the law, but we don't really understand like why everybody is kind of shunning her. And I feel like we needed a little bit more of that. Like we get her backstory with her dad and her sisters and how they like died. But I don't know that really feels like it's enough to like when you feel bad for her and not like want her out, like to run out of town, and like if that's the case and they like didn't feel bad for her, like why did they feel bad for her sister and everyone's nice to her?
Yeah, I think that was the challenge that I had. This was a very tell not show kind of a pilot. It's not that I didn't like it. I enjoyed the pilot. I like that they're trying to set the tone. I like that they're very clearly trying to introduce the mythology. Because if you think about it, we know and understand. Even me, who's not watched the show, I know a lot about the mythology. I understand the power of the gun. I understand the idea of the curse. I'm aware of that. Like I'm aware of the like, oh, she's 27 now. Like there's the birthday. Like I get all that kind of stuff. But they did do a pretty good job of introducing, okay, well, here's this character, and now she's older, and she's the heir, and there's this magic gun, and she's really not good at it. So they do a pretty good job.
And they show her past, too.
Aware.
That they're like, oh, something happened with this gun, which plays a big part
giving you the history.
In the season.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing that plays a huge part in this season is that the thing with her sister. Well, there's a big part of her other sister. They mentioned that. I think.
Yeah, her sister that dies when they're younger, Willa. Yeah,
that plays a much bigger part.
Names.
Yeah, it plays a bigger all W names. You got to keep it. You got to keep it with the W names, and there's only so many, honestly.
It's true.
There really is. Once you go to Wynonna, something that's interesting about this pilot too, going back to Waverly, because again, I think most people are watching. A lot of people watching the show because of the gay. So Wayhaught is the ship of this show. Nicole Haught is a police officer. We'll call her deputy, and she's like. So interestingly, it doesn't seem like they were going to put them together right away, but they had such good chemistry. Because like if you watch this, the boyfriend is Champ, whatever his name is. I think Champ.
Yeah.
And he stays for a while in the show. Like he stays for like a whole season, and then they're like, no one wants this guy.
No one cares about this guy. Oh my god, my cat just knocked something over. Apologies.
That was classic. I heard it. It just sounded like a cat knocked it over, looked down at it, and was like, that's on the ground now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's like, the attention to me is lacking at this particular moment.
Why are you looking at the screen?
I need to fix this. He's not done fixing it, so there might be more things knocking over. Okay, you're down now, buddy. You're down.
Yeah. So, question about the setting. So clearly it's in a place called Purgatory, which is hilarious and an excellent name, and it makes sense, and that's mythologically sound. Where is it actually? Because the gorgeous like scenery at one point looks like Montana.
It's Canada. They film.
Yeah. Where is Purgatory? Okay, I just googled where is Purgatory in Wynonna
They're like,
Earp? Well. She is. It's in the Canadian Rockies. Yeah. So it's funny because I thought this was supposed to take place in like the American West, and I was also confused when he gives her the little black badge division shield, and it's got the maple leaf on it, and I went, "What?"
But also the American flag. They had both of it.
Yeah, I was really confused. Hi, buddy. I'm glad you're back, but gotta go. I was really confused as well because I thought it was one of those things where like they're filming in Canada, but it's supposed to be the American West, and it looked like they just kind of maybe they originally thought to do that, and they were just like, actually, no one's going to believe that this isn't Canada. Let's just say it's Canada. Because the scenery, I think that is one of the things that I was so really impressed with rewatching the pilot is like, yes, they had like a budget of $5 and they could not get the action effects to look very good at all. She was just kind of flying through the air. But the scenery, the backdrop in the scenery was really stunning. Like there's a scene at the end of the pilot where she's sitting on the front porch and you can kind of see all the scenery behind her. And I was like, God, that's so pretty. Like it would have actually looked like a pretty, like a decently budgeted show if they didn't actually have to do the sci-fi and special effects. Like if they had just been a bunch of people talking on that like homestead, I think we would have been like, wow, what a budget.
And the sci-fi does get more intense, which is like, man, it's so weird because I don't think that's the best part of the show. Like you said, Morgan, I think what's fun about the show is just seeing these people interact with each other. They have fun chemistry with each other. The sibling dynamic is fun. Once you eventually get into like, I guess the dolls of it all and, you know, their team, I think is fun. But Yeah, it's a weird show, man, because it does feel very CW. It just does. It feels like so structurally like that type of show.
A lot of people have mentioned that that one of the reasons that they like it is that it had a Buffy vibe. And I would not say that about the pilot, but I would say as you get into season 1, it does start to feel that way because they have like a little crew and they fight demons.
I think it feels more like Angel.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it does have that kind of vibe to it where they're all working together and they're all, fighting evil and
there's a gun.
There's a gun. It does, and even like the way that like she's killing the revenants and then they kind of like disintegrate into fire felt very much like early season WB, where it's like, what do we do when she stakes the vampires? They turn to dust and now they're gone and no one has to worry about what to do with the body. And it felt very like, not in the pilot, I would say, but like as season 1 goes along, it feels very like a little bit Buffy-esque in the way that they have the characters and the relationships and the fighting of the monsters.
I think that's the best way to describe the pilot for me in general, Buffy-esque. It's very much like we're trying to sell this. Like we are trying to sell the idea. And this is also
what a pilot is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've become accustomed to a different type of pilot where now we have so much Netflix. We have so many streaming service pilots where we forget that a pilot was back in the day, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, meant to sell the show. And so this was meant to be like, look at the potential of this show. Look at this intriguing character. Look at this sister dynamic. Look at this mythology. And I think as far as that goes, it sells it well. I think that people who were looking to buy this, fans that were looking to watch this, were like, ooh, I see the potential. I think that the show does so well because of its fan base, and the fan base saying, look at the potential. Like, know what this show is and look at where it's going and look at how much the writers care about the show and the characters. So this is one of those shows that I think is very dependent upon the fans, and I'm really glad that it did get a chance to do so well and that it is coming back with their 90-minute movie, I think.
Yeah,
I think it ended on good terms too, so that's interesting that they're bringing it back.
It had like a real ending as far as I've heard, where like big life things happen for people, and like it kind of ends the story. So again, I can't speak to it because I haven't seen it, but from everything I heard, it ended really well. People were really happy with the ending, so I'll be interested to see where they decide to take the movie when it comes out, because there's always the risk that when you revisit something that ended well, that you're the next thing maybe won't.
Like Gilmore Girls.
And then you kind of ruin people's memories of the way that it ended originally, because you're like, and then they tacked on this thing and it wasn't as good. But yeah, I am interested to see where they're going to go with that, because from what I heard, it ended good and it was an actual ending. But I was so surprised, Kat, to your point. I also thought that Nicole Haught, the deputy character,
we showed up.
I thought she was in this one. I thought so I remember the scene where she and Waverly like meet each other and like they flirt with each other, and like you're like, oh, what's going on here? I thought that was in the pilot. So I was like, look at when she, like every time they went to the bar, I was like, is this the scene? No, how can it be? She's not even in this scene. Like, she's not in the bar. Like, what's going on? And so I was like so surprised that she's such a major character. She's probably one of the top 4 characters in the show, and she's not even in the pilot, which is funny, because it kind of goes to show that how characters can grow from being guest stars into being really important parts of the series.
From Arrow.
Oh yeah, sure. Like, she wasn't in the pilot either, or I don't think she was in the pilot.
She shows up on episode 4, I think.
Oh yeah,
she was meant to be a guest star on episode 4, and they were like, oh, chemistry, and the fans were like, yeah.
And it's interesting again how the season for Wynonna plays out, because again, I don't know what the plan was with Nicole. I don't know if it was just a chemistry thing or it's like they were always planning on doing that, but go back to the Waverly boyfriend thing. That lasts a pretty long time, but then they drop it, and he's just not. He's a pretty bad character. Like, he's a character that potentially could have been a really interesting character about bisexuality or whatever. And maybe he could have been something down the line, but obviously, like, no one actually wanted him. But and also, he just sucked. He's just like was a sucky character.
I think based on the fact that in the pilot he tries to cheat on Waverly with her own sister, and he knows straight up, he knows that's her sister. Like, he knows it's Wynonna. He's talking to her. They have like, they have a very good. They have a history, so he can't even be like, "Oh, you're her sister." Like, get out of here, sir. You know that. So I think that they were always planning to have her and Nicole get together because they introduced Nicole in episode 2 and they're like immediately flirting. Whereas I think that if it was something where like the two actors were in a scene together and they were like, oh, they've got chemistry, and then they wrote to it, it would have happened in like episode 3 or 4 or further down the line, where it happens in really early in episode 2, I think. So they were obviously, the plan was always to have her ditch her dirtbag boyfriend and start dating Nicole.
Right. It's a fun arc too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they were selling the pilot, they would have filmed this pilot during pilot season, so they would have had a hot second to be like, let's rethink things.
Actually, we hate the boyfriend. That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's so funny how different like TV is now, where it feels like they don't really. It feels like, I'm sure they still do the traditional pilot and then go to series, but it feels like it's not quite as like often as it used to be. Where now it feels like they greenlight the whole season. So the pilot often will watch these pilots that aren't very piloty, but also don't have a strong hook either, because they're like, well, we already have the whole season. Yeah. More movie-like, where it's just like a lot of setup in episode 1. And you're like, okay, where the old style pilots didn't have a lot of time to be like, okay, we're going to be 40 minutes of setup and like 2 minutes of action at the end to hook you. Back in, even this came out in 2016. Even then it was like, we gotta show you what the show is actually going to be like, because otherwise you won't come back in week 2.
Yeah.
You won't even remember there is a sci-fi channel.
like we didn't as we talked earlier.
Hey, I remember the sci-fi part because I went to a 2016 Wynonna Earp party that was with IDW, but then there was also a sci-fi party and all the Wynonna Earp cast was there.
That's so confusing.
And so I stood in line with Melanie, whose last name I can never get right.
Scarfano, I believe.
Oh, did you? That's funny.
That is my guess.
But yeah, we stood in line to get some sort of swag at the party. I think I still have the swag. It was for some show that didn't last. I don't know what it was, but it was swag and then a photo booth. So we stood in line and chatted for a long time.
Oh, that's fun.
She was perfectly normal. That's what I will never forget, is that she was just a normal person. She was so cool. Right. But I still never watched the show.
Now you have. I do hope you.
Now you have, yeah.
I hope you stick around at least for like 4 episodes. If you're ever on episode 4 and you're like, I still don't like it, you probably will continue to hate it. But
it's not that I don't like
4.
It.
Yeah, I would also say, just let the mythology kind of skim over you.
Yeah,
if
it doesn't matter,
because it matters, but like not as much as you think. Because one of my memories,
I'm gonna want it to matter.
Yeah, one of my memories of watching season 1 was being like watching episodes and being like, I really love these characters so much, and like I like the world. The mythology feels a little bit like I'm not being able to follow it. Is that
okay?
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, basically you get like the outlines of the big things that do matter basically in this pilot, which is that she is like hunting their evidence, that she's working with the Black Badge division,
and she'll kill them,
and that she's got a curse, and that's pretty much the big mythology pieces that you need for season 1. And I would argue that they kind of overcomplicate it. And like what I just said was probably all they needed. They do end up, they gild the lily a bit. They throw in extra things and you're like,
they have another big bad.
There's
a character that doesn't show up here that I think the person that shows up in this episode is more of a minion. And then like a couple more
Mhm.
episodes later, you're gonna see the big bad, and I think he's fun enough. We'll also say, I won't spoil it, but there's a character that does show up that I think you could probably follow the threads of who's gonna be, and they throw a big wrench into this season as well, and they become a bigger character. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I also love the
Mhm.
villain that you're mentioning at
Yeah,
Cat because
he's
he's
fun.
got one of the most fun names to say of all time.
Starts with a B, right?
His name is like Bobo Del Rey. and they never don't say his whole name. So they're always like there's like that rascal just came in here, Bobo Del Rey. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, if that was like somebody I name, like if I knew somebody with that name, I would also always say their full name.
He's fun. He's like, he has a lot of charisma.
He does. He's got a lot of swag. He wears like a jacket with like a giant fur collar. It is very funny.
I know okay, now I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
The fur collar got me. I know
the
who
fur
we're
collar
talking
guy
about.
is
like,
a legend.
From Earpogram. I do the fur collar, yes. I think the thing that was missing for me.
Earp talk.
True. Earp talk. That should be its own thing because we've got book talk, we've got bookstagram. I've got my Cult of Thorns and Roses. Like there should be an Earpgram, and if there's not, you guys are welcome to use that.
I'm sure there is. This show is pretty. This show's got a dedicated fan base.
That's why it's coming back for a movie like 3 years later.
It's one of the most powerful fandoms I've ever seen. They are,
and honestly,
on
no toxicity either. It seems like a very fun fan base. I mean,
very
again,
positive
I'm not part of it,
fandom.
But,
that's been my experience on like the outskirts of it. Is that they all seem like they came together because they just really liked this show. And usually a thing happens where in a fandom where over time some people start getting really mad and then it gets toxic and then people are arguing with each other. And I feel like that didn't really ever happen to the Wynonna Earp. And I would suspect that part of it is just that it attracts a lot of like nice people. But another part is like when your show is always about to get canceled, you're probably more likely to stick together than to have big fights about things.
Right.
Like, we just got to get this thing renewed again. And every year it was like that.
Don't draw attention to the things that are not working. You only draw attention to the good things.
We love everything about the show. Please,
there wasn't a lot of conflict in the storyline from what I remember. I think one of them becomes evil. I think that was probably the biggest thing. But this is every one of these. Yeah, every one of these shows, they're like, "Why is she evil for so many episodes?" But I think that happened. I don't think I watched that episode, but I remember like the stair scene. People went crazy for that. We got a stair. There's a stair.
The stair scene, I was honestly shocked they got away with that. I can't remember what
season. You should tell Amy about it's the last season. Tell Amy about
I thought it was the last season. Yeah, in the last season there is a Waverly Nicole sex scene that happens on the stairs, and it is surprising what they managed to get away with, and how they use
those railings well.
They use the railings of the stairs to like strategically hide things, but you knew what was happening.
Hey, I love that innovation. I love I love my smut.
It's very spicy. Innovation. Yeah, very spicy.
It was honestly the best I've seen for
I was like on basic
network
cable.
Show.
My God.
They did a really because you also have to be creative, so that's kind of fun to like visually see like how can you be creative with this. But I think you're gonna ask Amy. You were saying like you like the show, but you like, are you going to go further? Because I can see why the pilot wouldn't like sell you. It's not because you watched all Has Been Hotel, right?
No, but I've had no time. I want to watch Has Been Hotel.
Yeah, I know that's one that you would. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that's missing for me is because while we were talking, I'm like, what is it? What's the thing that was missing for me? And what was missing is the hook. There's no big question for me. There wasn't a hook that I'm waiting on. I think there were opportunities for a hook that they could have, kind of snagged me a little bit more with. But I was like, okay, this is an interesting character, an interesting town, and an interesting plot. But what's the kicker? Like, what's the really big thing?
There's not any big thing.
There isn't. And they could have made it a little bit less
procedural.
Yeah, they could have maybe made the option where like you learn about how oh, well, everyone that has previously been killed comes back, like a straight up party. Like, they could have made that a bigger deal where maybe it was a mystery and everybody's like, I don't know, rising out of the graves or whatever, claws are coming out of the ground. If they were going to go cheesy, there were ways to make this uber cheesy that would have hooked me in a little bit more. So if I ended up sticking around and watching the series, it would be exclusively for the fact that I know how good it gets and I know how good the characters go. And because people like you two and the Earp fandom are like, watch it.
But does the show get better? I don't know. That's the hardest thing to sell on you, is that I don't know. The plot never gets that much better. It really is the characters. It's just like, it really is just fun to see them interact.
I think that's actually a good segue to like, what did you think of the characters in this pilot? Because I think, again, that the characters are really the strength of this show, especially our main two, which is Waverly and Wynonna. They really
sisterhood.
Their sister dynamic, their relationship with each other, and, you know, really carries the show. But we did get some other characters that end up being, we have Doc, who
doesn't really do much here.
It doesn't really do much here. And honestly is kind of set up as the mystery at the end of the pilot. Like, who is this guy? And why is he hanging out with the residents? Yeah, he's meant to be the mystery, but like, is the mystery of him enough to like make you like think, oh my God, I have to tune in next week to find out who this guy is?
Maybe. I don't know. It's,
Yeah.
If I decide to continue watching it, which I have so many shows that I need to watch, it would be exclusively for what I know it becomes. But it's not to say I disliked the pilot. It was good.
Yeah, how did we think that they like deployed the backstory, like the backstory with her dad and her sisters? Because there were some points where it would do that flashback where I'd be like, this is a little jarring.
It's jarring, but it's the thing I was most interested in because it's more character driven. You're like, oh, I guess this is where she's coming from, and like made, you know, why the family feels very fractured. I don't know if they did it correctly, but it was more interesting than, you know, the girl disappearing in the beginning of the episode. And also, again, I know where it goes, so I like where that story goes.
I will say that was interesting, having her accidentally kill her dad. Now, if they had made it more clear that maybe her dad was, I don't know, a major part of this town, or at the beginning, like, he was a super well-liked character, then maybe it would have made this, like, animosity that the town feels against her a little bit more clear. Or, you know, she straight up just abandoned her sister after this because of an overwhelming sense of guilt. I guess they try to hint at it, but they don't make it obvious enough. So I liked that. I liked the flashbacks that they put in, and I liked that was, quite frankly, the only part of the pilot where I went, ooh, like, oh, she actually kills her dad. Yum. Especially because I thought that her, like, being bad at the gun, I thought it was because the gun was only going to work on revenants. Like, literally, physically, it can't kill a human, which I thought would have been a really cool lore. Like, this magic gun physically cannot kill real humans. Like, no matter what you do, you could hold it to someone's head, and it won't work. So I thought that was the lore we were going for. So I was surprised to see that it actually can, in fact, kill a human. Also, where's the ammo? Where do the bullets
I think it's magical bullet type situation, yeah.
She's never gonna have to reload because it's magic.
I'm not kidding. She goes and she practiced shooting the sign, and then the next the next scene is the well again. And I literally thought she was gonna climb out with a box of ammo and be
I forgot this. That would have actually been really funny. And it feels like actually that would have matched the tone of the show, which is like,
yes, that's a Wynnona thing to do.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about the tone of about the show is the tone that they're like, they don't really take themselves too seriously.
Or the mythology. Fun. The mythology is not important.
Or their mythology. They're sort of not that serious. And she's always kind of cracking jokes and like knowing jokes, especially as the show goes along and the fans start like being in conversation with the showrunners and the creative people. You'll see like references within the shows to like things that people have been talking about like online, so you can see how like the fandom has started to bleed into the show, but not in a way that was like annoying, which sometimes would happen on those like early 2000 shows where the fans would get too intense and then the show would be like trying to just like pander shamelessly to them. I thought it was the way that they would handle that would be fun, like kind of like knowing winks to people, but I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I thought that the mythology overall was pretty solid. I liked the idea of it. I don't know why, but I absolutely love the term revenant. Like,
It is
I'm
a fun
obsessed with
term.
that term. I've read it in a book before that's very similar. Like, it's the same type of a character, but I've always found it really cool because it's very different than zombies, and it's very different than, like, I don't know, other terms. It's just a good term. It's very sophisticated.
It is, and it's kind of spooky. It's like, what does that mean? What are they? Yeah, and that's what they call them through the whole series. So it is kind of fun. Like, whenever I hear that term, I like because they use it in Wynonna Earp so often. I like immediately think of Wynonna Earp now because they use it all the time. But I do think that that's a really fun part of the mythology, is that she has to kind of go and kill all of these revenants to get rid of them in the town, and they're kind of stuck. They're all kind of stuck in purgatory.
Question, and this might be something that obviously pops up again. So if the new time an heir turns 27, all the revenants that the previous Earps have killed come back to life. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I want to say yes. I want to say yes.
So why don't they just stop having kids?
I mean, yeah,
if the Earp family stopped procreating, the revenants would not rise when their children turn 27.
That really seems like a pretty obvious fix for the curse.
But there would be no show.
And I don't know if I'll be interested to see, as I'm like doing my rewatch, if anybody ever mentions that. Like,
yeah, if any Earpers are listening,
why didn't you just decide to go child free for for a generation, and then you've done it, you've taken care of it.
I feel like they would pass it along somehow with the gun. I feel like there'd be something.
There'd be some gun shenanigans.
Yeah, there'd be some someone touched the gun, they unlocked the curse. Now a new family has it.
Okay,
it might be. It also might be something that like only the heir can like save like the town, or like
yeah, maybe it's still happening either way.
So like if there is no heir, there's nobody to take care of the revenants, and then they just like go wild. I don't know.
Yeah, but like at one point, 4 generations ago, you had all the remnants. 4th generation Earp was like, boom, 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 killed them all, and then she could just be like, okay, no kids.
Yeah,
no
I
kids.
think
I'm gonna move to Montana.
I think the 1800s, there wasn't a lot of birth control at that point.
I also think that like part of the lore is that none of the heirs have ever come close to killing all of them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's like, well, I haven't done it, but like maybe my child will do it.
I don't even think she does either by the end. I don't think she does.
Yeah, but her child will, which I know is a spoiler.
Bum, bum, bum.
I don't even know that. You knew more than I do.
Because Melanie gets pregnant in real life, and I think they work her pregnancy into the show.
They did. Oh, you're right. She did have a kid in the last season.
Yeah,
it's like a baby, I think.
I want to say it's season 2 or 3 where Melanie got pregnant, and instead of like trying to write around her like carrying giant gift baskets in every episode, they just like let her character be pregnant. And
I think it was a magical pregnancy. I don't remember.
It's absolutely like a magical pregnancy.
And that could be the thing. It's like no matter what, someone in the Earp family gets pregnant and they just can't get rid of it. Like,
oh no! Curses happened again. One of the fun things is like when she is pregnant, the character, she still gets to be like an action hero, but like a pregnant action hero, which you don't see very often. So I really did appreciate that. They wrote in her pregnancy really well, and we've all seen enough TV to be like, that's not always the case.
No. And I think, if I remember correctly, Waverly did a lot during that time too. Like
she
takes over. I don't know. There's a lot in this show, in the 3 seasons they're on.
That's what I heard most about the show, is that the writers just did a really good job. They were really respectful about characters. They were respectful about actors. They were
don't take it too seriously.
Yeah. Which we love. Like we love Legends of Tomorrow doesn't take it seriously shenanigans. That makes us happy. So
and
I think I probably will keep watching, but it's on my list. And
it's on the list. The other thing I will say is I believe that this show came out either the same year that the whole Alexa dying thing happened, or like the year after. And the showrunner came out, Emily, I think Andres came out and was like, we're not gonna kill either of the main couple. Like we're not killing Wayhaught. Like that's not gonna happen on this show. Which I think, you know, for the queer audience who's like seeing good representation, to go into a show knowing like they're not gonna kill them must be so nice, because I feel like you're probably always a little bit on eggshells because of how that was also a season where or a year or two where a lot of queer characters were getting killed off, like on every show. It wasn't just CW shows. And so, yeah, they were like very dedicated to, they knew who their fans were, and they like knew how important it was to their fans to have that good representation and not have to worry. So they were like, yeah, no, they're not going to die. Don't worry about it.
There was a scene in, I want to say season 1, and it's a really great scene where Nicole gets shot and they right away reveal, I was wearing a, you know, bulletproof vest. And it's like a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. They do play with that occasionally throughout the course of the show, where they'll be like, we're not dying, like essentially, like, and it's, I don't think it's a spoiler to say like they don't, neither of those characters dies. And
no one really dies in this show that's in this main cast, from what I remember.
Someone does.
Do they?
I have a feeling I know who it is.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. Of all the Earp stuff I've ever seen, I don't remember ever seeing alien dude. I'm calling him alien dude because he looks like a guy. The Marshall dolls.
Oh, dolls. Yeah. I
don't remember ever seeing him in anywhere.
If he does die, it doesn't happen until later.
He's in all of season 1. Spoiler alert for Wynonna Earp. I think he dies in like season 2 or 3. So he's like a pretty major character throughout a little bit of it, but then
I think it has to be 3 because I did not see his death. And I watched a good chunk.
Again, this is a I haven't rewatched Wynonna Earp in a while. So we're talking about like 2016, 2017 now. So I don't remember, but he definitely makes it through season 1. He's a pretty big character in season 1. And then apparently
through season 1.
Yeah. And then apparently the actor wanted to like go and do other things. So they wrote him off.
He showed up in 26 episodes.
Okay, so he was probably through. I think you're right, Kat. Then he was in the first 2 seasons, and then I must have died sometime in season 3. Yeah. So he's a major character in like I guess half the show. It's only 4 seasons, so.
Interesting, but yeah, solid show. Go watch it. It's interesting because it's not really. It doesn't feel like a cat show, and I don't know why. I like it, but it's fun
because of the characters. You like it for the characters.
Yeah,
I think mythology can skeep by, and you're like, that's fine. But you're there for the characters. Like that does sound like a cat show.
That's true. And honestly, I like a good Western.
Yeah,
it has the Western vibe. So
the Western
and
vibe,
it's very different.
Godless?
No.
Did you ever watch Godless on Netflix? It's only one season, a limited series event. Oh.
That was like one of the early Netflix shows, wasn't it? Where like when Netflix
a couple years ago.
Yeah, only coming out with like 3 or 4 shows a year instead of like 25.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
25 a week.
A week, yeah, exactly.
It's brutal. It's pretty graphic, but it's also like a genuine representation of what a modern day Western would be. Like if back when they made Westerns, if they were able to use the film techniques and the special effects techniques that we have now, like this is what they would have made. Like it's really good. And the music is so good. Oh, the setting is gorgeous. Godless is spectacular. Godless would be a fun one to do a pilot pod on if you like.
That'd
be fun.
Actually, no, I really want to go watch Godless again. It's that good. It's only 10 episodes. But there's the music's amazing, the story's amazing, and it was built as a limited series, so it starts and ends where it was meant to go.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm gonna put that on the list because I was watching this and I was thinking to myself like, I really like Westerns. Like they should. I don't
really
watch
love Godless.
Yeah, I don't watch enough of these. I need to get more Westerns in the rotation. They don't make it. Well, to be fair, they don't make that many Westerns like they used to. Like back in the day, it used to be all like the way that it's superheroes now. It used to be Westerns, like you know, many years ago.
I like a good Western movie.
15 minutes.
Okay.
Like Godless, you'll know within 15 to 20 minutes if you're gonna like it or not.
There's Deadwood. I know a lot of people like that. I couldn't get into that. I wasn't a Deadwood fan.
I liked Deadwood, but I agree that like it took some time to get into.
Isn't Deadwood more procedural?
I
Deadwood?
don't think it is. No, it's pretty.
No,
it's pretty.
It was a cable.
Yeah,
So
it's very HBO. It's it takes place in like the Wild West essentially.
Okay.
So they have like I believe Doc Holliday is also in that
Too much
show.
Doc Holliday.
He's not like the sexy Tim Rosen Doc Holliday. He's just like a little doctor dude. But no shade to the Doc Holliday in Deadwood. You're also sexy, I believe. But
it's like, I'm sure you're sexy.
I'm sure you're sexy in your own way, but no, he was just kind of like a doctor character. And then they have Timothy Olyphant from Justified is like the main. He's like the main sheriff. Yeah, kind of the main guy in that, and he's really good. Timothy Olyphant is just you put a cowboy hat on Timothy Olyphant, and I'm pretty much there. Like I'm seated, you know.
It's an interesting show because it is one of those shows that, and again, I hated it. I don't like it. It's not, but what I was gonna say, it's one of those shows that you either literally love or you literally hate. Yeah. There is no in between.
That does seem true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit to get into it too. Yeah, like it took me a couple episodes where I was like, I don't know, and then it like clicked for me. Right. But yeah, anytime anyone's like, oh, I wasn't really into that show, I like completely get it. I'm like, yeah, now I understand.
I feel like it's people love Yellowstone. I don't know enough about it, but it feels like Yellowstone's kind of a.
It's sort of like the modern so Mike watched Yellowstone as his like solo show, and he's like, it's so good. But it blew my mind when I was like, oh yeah, that happens in the Wild West, right? And he's like, no, it's like modern day. It's just modern day Montana. And I was like, what? I was sure that Yellowstone took place in like the 1800s.
I don't know enough.
There is
there's a Yellowstone spinoff though that does take place in like
they're like, we know what you wanted. We're
like, listen, we know people thought this was historical. This one actually is historical. I think that one that is that takes place in the 1800s has like Harrison Ford and like Helen Mirren in it. Like,
wow,
it's literally I think it's 1852.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I was like, I want to watch that one and not the modern day one.
I don't know if I want to watch either.
I'll watch Harrison and Helen. I'm not going to watch 8. Okay. So a little bit later.
Anywho, Westerns.
Yellowstone's the next show we'll talk about.
PilotPod will do Yellowstone. What if all of our PilotPods are just Westerns from now on?
Westerns.
I like Westerns, but not that much.
I know. Okay, so I think we're just about ready to wrap up. I think let's go around with last thoughts about Wynonna Earp, and then we'll see where we all are. Amy, any last thoughts? Anything we didn't talk about?
No, I think we kind of hit on all of it. I would say that the pilot was entertaining, but there was nothing overtly remarkable about it. And that might be where, for me, it just kind of didn't have the hook that I was looking for. I found the characters intriguing. I found the setting and the plot intriguing. But again, if I did not know where it was going to go, and if I did not know and understand the passion that the fans had for it, I don't know if this would have been enough to hook me in. But I do know where it's going to go, and I do trust everybody's opinions on it. So I probably will end up watching it. It just may not. It may not be a priority
this year
for me.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see. I have so much stuff. I haven't even watched all of Star Trek. Okay.
I was gonna say,
that is actually surprising.
Yeah. I'm behind.
Kat, what about you? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Is it the best pilot? No, but I think like you said, Morgan, it does show the flavor of what you're gonna get with the characters, and I think that's what's important. And stay for Wayhaught. They're cool and they are pretty consistent. So
they also have a great ship name.
They probably have the best, if I'm being honest.
I think they really do. Honestly, it's very fun. It feels like they named the character for those jokes
intentionally.
For sure,
I've done that before.
Especially Nicole. Maybe not Waverly, but Nicole.
Yeah, but
for sure.
Nicole 100% was named for the jokes.
Yeah,
about being hot. Yeah, no,
you said that. You said it like about the jokes. You're like, just to clarify about being hot.
The jokes are
like,
about how hot.
Let me explain the pun.
In case you didn't get it.
She doesn't spell it H-O-T either, so don't
No, it's like
H-A-W-T?
H-A-U
G-T, I think.
T-H or something
Yeah,
like that.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Wait, hot.
What?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the pilot. I think it is very piloty. The special effects are just honestly,
Atrocious.
I forgot how bad they were. I was shocked at how bad they were. But the characters I think are really good, even in the pilot, even with all of the sort of like the heavy mythology that they're trying to kind of info dump on you. I think you get a good feel for the characters, and I think especially Wynonna and Waverly are so good in this that like I would have, even not having heard that how good of a show it becomes, I probably would be like, oh, I want to spend more time with those two because they're fun.
And we did, because
yeah,
we continue to watch the show. So.
we did. We watched almost all of it, but
Almost
not
all.
quite.
I don't know if I'll ever go
guys'
back and
homework.
watch all of it, but I think I will watch the new thing they put out.
Would
that'd
you?
be my thing.
Are you going to go back and watch the episodes like you didn't watch? Because you probably only didn't watch like 4 of them.
That's true. If it's only 4, I will.
Yeah,
But I feel like it's a whole season. I don't know, because there's 4 seasons, right? So I feel like I got to season 3.
maybe. Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
I watched season 4 at all.
I
I think the hiatus was in season 3. So I think there's a whole nother season. To
I think
watch.
there was, if I remember right, there were 2 hiatuses. There was a long hiatus between season 3 and 4, and then COVID, I think, screwed them while they were filming season 4. And I think there was a big hiatus in the middle of season 4.
That's
I think
mine was
I watched
season
the first.
3.
Yeah, I watched the first half of season 4, and then I fell off during the forever COVID hiatus and missed just the very end. But you could probably just. Honestly, you could probably just drop into the finale if you didn't want to watch the whole final season. Get ready for the movie.
I feel like I did. I think at some point when that came out, I think I did watch clips of it. So I just don't remember what happened.
You're like,
because it's been
you're
long.
ready. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, wherever it's at. I think also it'll explain things. Like Teen Wolf the movie explained where they were at, you know?
Oh my God, Teen Wolf the movie. I forgot about that.
It was
What
bad.
a time. What a time in our lives. So I think that's going to do it for our pilot pod of Wynonna Earp. Maybe we'll come back and look at it after the movie comes out. Maybe we'll talk about the movie when it finally
I will
drops.
definitely watch the movie. I have
I think that'll be fun.
Like, just synopsising everything else and then watching the movie. I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to spoil anything dramatic where like you'd be like, oh, I know that. I don't want to watch the show now. Like it's not that kind of show.
No, I think, and honestly, I think it's going to start its own little arc. Because again, I do think the show ended on a good note. So it's probably just going to be like, where are they now? Type situation.
Hanging out with Wynonna and Waverly.
Okay. Did they get married? I think they did, right?
I think so.
So they've done it all. They've really done it all in the show already. Yeah.
You got to end a good show on a wedding. I
marriage.
think that's probably that's just like in the TV show handbook. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for our chat about Wynonna Earp. What's going on for everybody? Kat, what you got going now on Kickstarter?
So we just ended our Nightmare on Wonderland Kickstarter. So if you're looking for Not Safe at Work stuff, we just ended it, but you could get a pre-order of the book if you like Alice in Wonderland and Sleeping Beauty. But right now it's Slice of Life. We have the trade out. Actually, I'll show it here, but here's a hardcover we got. This is actually this sold out already. So what I'm holding, you can't get. But so this is the hardcover. See some kissing. But some smooches. But yeah, no, I'm really proud of the book. It's our webtoon. It's about an anime character comes to life and falls in love with a high school cheerleader. It's a sweet book, all about life. So go check it out. It's really our baby. So it's kind of cool to hold a 200+ page book with that one and having weekly releases and everything. Yeah, so something we're really proud of. It's already funded, so go check it out.
That's awesome. Amy, how about you? What do you've got going on?
You guys can find me on Instagram, Amy_hip, Amy_HYP. Nothing that I can announce right now, so we'll see.
Ooh,
I've gotten some things that maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, will come up. I don't know. We will see. Currently, I'm just doing a lot of stuff. Actually, if you are going to be at WonderCon in Anaheim at the end of March, I will be there with Hero Within, which is the clothing company and merchandising company that I've worked with before. We're selling all kinds of really cool Star Trek gear. and you will get a chance to meet me in my highly caffeinated glory. Like, you guys have never seen me.
I've seen
work a
Amy
con.
highly. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
it's fun. It's fun.
It's something else. It's actually like there's a point where I physically can't turn it off. Like, Kat comes and I'm like, hi, I am. Do you want to come in and try the things that we've got? We've got all the things over here.
And
If you
I
want to
was
try it
like-
on, you totally can.
It's like, I've
Like-
known you for a really long time that you don't have to sell me the clothes.
I can't turn it off because on top of everything, like, if there's anyone else nearby, I like physically, I'm like, I'm working right now. Like, even when I'm at my normal job place, when friends come, if I am even remotely out in public, I am like on the whole time. Like, I feel like if I was on a movie set or something and I'm working on that, I would never be off.
Oh my God.
No.
I was about to say, I feel like you should be like a Disney cast member. I feel like that. I feel like they require.
I'd be
I feel like
happy.
they require that of
Yeah.
them.
But like, if I wasn't in a tent, if like a single fan could see me, I'd be smiling. I wouldn't be on my phone, not paying attention. Like, put me in the tent, I'd be like, oh God.
I would absolutely be on my phone, not paying attention. I would be a horrible
same.
news person.
Yeah. Your
Yeah, I can't
mermaid
turn it
tail
off.
and-
I'm like, get
Always
away from
on.
me.
But yeah, that's the end of March.
Child.
You guys are going to be in Anaheim for WonderCon. Come say hi.
Exciting. And you can find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio, where we've been slowly working our way through the DC animated Tomorrowverse movies.
That's what they call them?
I think so. Yeah. I feel like that I should know this more specifically, but our last episode was on Justice Society, World War II, and we had Andy back from the Flash podcast on as a special guest. And the next one, I can't remember what it's going to be about. But anyway, if you want to go take a journey through those movies with us, because we haven't watched any of them really, so they're all new to us as well, you should join us over at Supergirl Radio. We stream live to the DC TV podcast YouTube channel Tuesdays at 9. Yeah. So
Eastern Standard Time?
Eastern time. Yes, that's true. You're going to want to pop on early for Amy, late for us.
Yeah. Let's like drive home for West Coasters, where we're going to go pick up pizza that actually has sauce on it.
Pick up your pizza with sauce. Listen to us in the car. Eat your real pizza. Listen to us at home.
We should mention that's a reference to a Patreon episode that is
Oh,
not far.
Oh,
away.
that's right.
That is actually important to note. Yes. And that's actually a great segue to, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/the legendary ladies. And you should follow us there because we're doing all kinds of
pizza.
We're talking about pizza. We're talking about food. We're talking about cooking.
My favorite subject.
And you could have joined us live tonight on the chat. Whenever we record an episode, our patrons at most of the levels get a chance to join us live. You can join in the chat. Your opinion will be noted.
And this
it's
comes
really
out a
helpful.
week later too. This is like we're recording this pretty early, so.
Yeah, so we love our patrons. Our patrons are like our family. They're super, super cool and amazing. And
Literally.
We're working on some new levels that will hopefully have some cool new perks. So stay
Yeah,
tuned.
we're hoping to have a little bit more interaction in the new levels, I think. So that'll be fun. So definitely now is a great time to hop on to the Patreon and support the podcast. And also, review us. We always forget to mention this, but reviews really do help on your favorite podcast platform. Drop us a review and tell us what you want to see us talking about. And I think until next time, stay legendary.